Alrighty, Wednesday, July 31st. We are now officially post FOMC. It was a really nice session today. So we come into the day. Let's just kind of go over the structure here. We come into the day knowing that price had just previously tested that key area of support. Remember yesterday morning on ES, price is opening near that near-term area of resistance. Pretty typical range trade. You have 55.30 right there. 55.30 pretty much rejects right off of the open, and it sets up a trend day lower. Now, the trend day, mind you, is still within the near-term structure, so no break of that structure. Price still trading down into that area of support. Main watch as far as what we had discussed yesterday during the session recap was we want to see how price is going to be trading versus this key area of support right down here. Now, obviously, very active overnight session, right? We see pretty aggressive buying activity in that overnight session, and it gives us an open right near that prior day high, right near that 55.30 area. Taking a look at the 5-minute regular trading hours chart here on the screen. So we're right near that breakout point. So it makes the watch for this morning at least pretty easy, right? We have a straightforward breakout point. We want to see how price is going to be trading versus that breakout point. If it fails, we know that price is back within the near-term range. We probably don't want to be considering any longs until we see proof that buyers are stepping in versus some downside level of interest, or maybe even the lower portion of the range. So what do we actually see end up happening? Price retest what should be the breakout point, right? 55.30. You also have prior day high right there. So it's a very high confluence point for a potential entry. And we see price give a pretty enormous bounce. One of the things I had talked about this morning was that unfilled gap here on the regular trading hours chart. That gap, for the most part, has been filled, right? All but about 6 points has been filled. So that big volume void we were talking about on both ES and NQ this morning has largely been filled. This is a pretty typical near-term range breakout type of play. You want to be very cautious if you're trying to fade a move like this. We did see a couple of short opportunities. Personally, I don't think that is the easiest or the best play on a day like today. Just want to be looking for those long setups to trade with the higher time frame structural move, which is a near-term range breakout. So the breakout is complete. Question is, where do we go from here, right? And so I jump back to the hourly chart because buyers certainly are not out of the woods by any means. We had that near-term range breakout. Price did fill most of this gap through here. The challenge is that we still see that price is coming into a notable area of resistance right through here. This blue line, if you're familiar with my charts, you know that that is last week's volume point of control, right? So we know that there's a lot of volume through this 5600 area, 5610 area, and we could see that price respected this area as an area of resistance previously. So most likely when price actually revisits that 5600 area, 5610 area, it will again act as resistance. We did, however, see this downtrend force a change in character with that push up and through the 55.30 area. So no longer in that intermediate term downtrend. Buyers definitely showing their strength. The other concern here and the thing to be watching for is the fact that if we take our fib on this most recent sell-off from essentially the July 16th high down into the low, which would have been made on July 25th, where is price now? Take a look at the fib, right into that 50% retracement area. And as you know, or you should know, that 50 to 61% is usually going to be that sell zone, right? So I'll be cautious in the entirety of this area on ES. What we want to do tomorrow is kind of gauge the risk appetite of buyers, whether they're going to show continuation of this move or not. Location right through here is definitely a bit tricky. On one hand, we do have the breakout point down into 55.30, right? And we could most likely be leaning on 55.50 as well as a solid level of interest from today. But the longs, they start to come pretty quickly into an area of resistance, which is always going to be a more challenging setup. So what I'll be looking at for tomorrow, let me get some eyes on today's profile. Today's volume point of control right there into 55.60. So not all that helpful, but what I'll primarily be looking at for tomorrow is this 55.50 level of interest. We can see how well that is held for the duration of today. And then this 55.75 area. We want to see if buyers are going to show any type of continuation up through this level. And of course, the prior day high will be a significant reference point for tomorrow's session as well. Now, given the volatility, including the overnight action this morning, right? Big gap higher. And then today's action as well. If I'm not mistaken, I believe we were looking at a 2 ATR move. Yeah, just about 2 ATR, right? So 137 points total today versus a 72 point normal ATR, almost that 2 ATR move, which is pretty extreme for the index. So point is there definitely is that possibility that price has an inside day tomorrow. Now, it's not uncommon following an FOMC day to see some type of gap. So it's very much so the next 2 days, especially considering the current structure market, where I'll be taking it day by day, morning by morning, kind of seeing, all right, where is price located in relation to the structure? And then as far as approaching the day, what level of interest can we best lean on to kind of set our bias and our game plan for the session? As always, I like to come into the session with one primary level of interest and then kind of set my game plan based on how price responds to that level. So that's what I'll be looking to do tomorrow as well, if we can. As of right now, it's looking like that 55.50 area. A lot of resistance up through here, as we can see price retesting that 75 during the course of this conversation and then rejecting again, right? But these are wide moves. We're talking about 25 points here, so it's definitely tradable. We'll see how that shakes out. As of right now, what we know objectively is that price has broken out of that near-term range, and we've got good follow-through from the buyers. So let's jump over to NQ. Pretty similar as far as the structure is concerned. ES obviously stronger between the two. What I love about NQ right now is the fact that it did give that spring setup. Spring setup was phenomenal. Remember, the spring is the undercut of a local low, some type of structural low that then quickly reclaims. That's bullish. At least in the near term, that is bullish. And we saw the backside of that during the overnight session. And then today as well with that follow through on the breakout play. Looking at 19,400 to continue to hold today as support. And that's exactly what we see. So the action was really clean here in NQ as well. Now this setup is actually a little bit more favorable just because of price's proximity to that breakout point. I like to lean on those higher impact levels. In this case, we have that 19,400 area, which is definitely going to be a high impact level of interest. And relatively speaking, price is pretty close to that point. So that's what I'll be looking at primarily for tomorrow's session on NQ. Buyers looking to defend this previous area of resistance. Remember, this is a breakout trade. So much like I said in ES, there were some short opportunities today, but the easier play is definitely the long, right? We're dealing with a higher time frame breakout. So main objective of buyers as of right now is to show that continuation up and through the 520, which has also served as a really nice level for today. Zooming out a bit, we do have a near-term change in character. Price trading up and through the most recent lower high and still kind of within this volume void, right? These volume voids tend to fill quickly. Price is about halfway through it right now. It starts to get a little bit trickier up through this area up here, which is 19,800. Right through here, you could see high volume node, right? Prior area of support, just looking left on the chart, pretty simple stuff. So may start to see this kind of momentum move slow down once price approaches this area. But as of right now, if buyers can continue to step up, this volume void should be filled pretty fast. Now let's take a look at where price is in relation to the actual retracement like we did on ES. And it's nowhere near that 50% retracement yet, kind of bumping its head into that 38% retracement. It's notable, but it's more of a shallow level, right? More interested definitely in the 50 and 61%. So still a little bit of room here on NQ. ES has been stronger, obviously, but NQ does have, in my opinion, a little bit of a better setup if it actually does kind of play catch up with that ES move. So that's the recap. Hope everyone had a great day. A lot of good action today, a number of good setups in my opinion. Definitely a day that you want to be documenting and reviewing and kind of doing a chart annotation, some sort of write-up of what you thought was the easiest money played today. If you guys have any questions about that, feel free to shoot me a DM. Otherwise, I'll see you tomorrow morning. Have a good afternoon.